on Speedweek, this first turn claims the second half of the field.
This first turn claims the top part.
And turnabout is not fair play for this top professional.
This and more next on Speedweek.
Speedweek is brought to you by B.F. Goodrich TA Radials, built for you to take on the road. And by Busch Beer, the beer with a taste as smooth as its name.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Speedweek. I'm Larry Nuber.
And I'm Bob Jenkins. Lexington, Ohio, Monterey, California, Nashville, Tennessee, Englishtown, New Jersey. Just some of the locations of major races this past weekend. But we begin this week Speedweek in England.
When you're playing well and with confidence, divine luck just seems to land in your lap. Just ask Nigel Mansell about ESPN's Auto Racing 86 Formula One telecast Sunday.
The start, Sunday's British Grand Prix at Brands Hatch. Terry Bootson's car caromed out of control in front of the second half of the field. Frenchman Jacques Lafitte pinned in his crumpled Leger and sustained 2 broken legs and a fractured pelvis. Nothing life-threatening, but British journalist Monday speculated that it was career-ending for the 42-year-old. The crash had involved both cars of 4 teams, Osella, Minardi, Zaxpeed, Arrows plus Lafitte. Meanwhile, Nigel had had his own trauma. Shifting into second gear, a half shaft exploded. His race over. But that Paddock Bend crash stopped the race, and the rules allow substituting backup cars. Nigel, one of 5 to take advantage. The second start, warm, butter, smooth. Pole sitter Nelson Piquet, easily fastest all weekend, held the pilot seat. And when Benetton fitted Gerhard Berger, another swift weekend, passed Nigel for second, things looked rosy for Piquet. But after 4 laps, Mansell, who praised Piquet for ironically setting up the car, began to get the hang of it. He later ascended to first and never gave it up. Nigel, pressed by Nelson, called it his hardest race ever. Indestructible Alain Prost was third, René Arnoux fourth, and the Tyrrells a double points finish, Brundle fifth, Streff sixth. Mansell leapfrogs into first now, Prost second, Senna out early today, third, Piquet a distant fourth. And for the time being, nobody else matters.
Lafitte was reportedly in stable and comfortable condition early this week. The broken pelvis is the most serious injury, but it's expected to heal completely.
The famed Pikes Peak Hill Climb was held last weekend, and a familiar name made headlines once again. Harv Holliday has a report.
Bobby Unser Sr. gave everyone just what they wanted. A near-perfect run in the rally division and a hill climb record time of just over 11 minutes and 9 seconds. That was a full 16 seconds better than Michel Mouton's run last year, and Bobby was extremely happy to have the record back in the Unser family.
There is a lot of tradition to the Unser family on Pikes Peak, and there always has been. I should say always, way before I was born, because my father and his 2 brothers raced up here, and then there were 4 of us boys. And now little Al's come along, so there's 3 generations right there. And we just last year lost the record. Of course, we've lost it before, but an Unser usually comes back and reclaims, so time for me to come back, I guess.
Also on the peak today, production rally driver John Crawford in the spotlight as he breaks his own division record and wins for the 5th straight time. In this year's open wheel division, Bill Brister won his 3rd championship as he nipped Gary Lee Canoyer by less than 0.4 of a second. And in the stock car division, another repeat champion this year, Leonard Vaschholz.
In our next segment, America's muscle 4-wheelers pound the pavement in Ohio.
America's stoutest 2-wheelers paved the way in California.
When you take on the track, you're taking your tires to the limit. B.F. Goodrich started it all, testing street radials in races like this and like this. The more we race, the more we prove what a tire can do. On cars like this and like this. B.F. Goodrich TA radials, built for you to take on the road.
They say the best ones are the hard ones. These you don't break. You try to reach an agreement. And when you do, you head for the mountains. Busch. Head for the beer brewed natural as a mountain stream, for a taste as smooth as its name. Busch. Head for Busch beer. Head for the mountain.
You know, a lot of cars out there have ride problems. Why? It may be their springs, especially when you load up. They can cause sag or bottoming out. Now there's a solution. Cargo coils by Moog. Different from standard springs. Let me show you why. These closely spaced coils smooth the ride, and cargo coils have these stronger coils to take over when you load up. So when you hit the road, don't hit the road. Get a pair of Moog cargo coils at your mechanic or auto parts store.
Sunday, IndyCar Racing's American hero, Danny Sullivan, tries to become the #1 driver on the circuit. To win Toronto's Molson Indy, he'll have to beat 500 champion Bobby Rahal, one of the most successful drivers this year. Toronto's Molson Indy, live Sunday at 1:30 Eastern on ESPN.
Several SCCA club races and a couple of pro events were held at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course last weekend, which, by the way, was the 25th anniversary of that facility. Here's Bob.
The Ford-Chevy battle in Trans Am continues here at Mid-Ohio. On the pole for this race, Scott Pruitt driving a Ford. But Chevy banner carrier Wally Donomack Jr. on the outside of row 1 is going for 4 straight wins. The 36 starters charge into turn 1. Somebody bumps somebody else, resulting in this. 4th place starter Pete Halsmer is out. 3rd place starter Elliott Forbes Robinson is damaged but gets going again. Wally and teammate Jim Miller discuss their wrecked Chevys and how Greg Pickett is now carrying the Protofab Chevy colors solo. Pruitt leads when Green comes back out on the 9th lap, followed by Chris Neifel and a smoking Tommy Riggins. Pickett passes Neifel and begins to stalk Scott until Pruitt retires with an engine problem. Neifel runs 3rd until late in the race when he and Bob Beinerth collide, eliminating the Roush Challenge. No, EFR has not just gotten married, but he drives as if he's on his way to a honeymoon. He charges back through the field to a 2nd place finish. His teammate John Schneider, showing what a Buick Somerset should look like, finishes 5th. F.E. Wheatsey's in a number 94 Camaro is in his first race this year. He finishes 3rd. Mike Miller in the budget rent-a-car Mercure is 4th. It's Pickett's first win since Sears Point in September of '84. He finished 2nd in Trans Am points that year, driving a Capri. The Camaro he's driving now is an experimental V6, and Greg told us he was close to being involved in that first lap crash.
I thought for a moment to dart outside, but I just slowed down, and by the time they swung by me and I got back in it, there was a couple cars back inside me inside, so I was really sorry to see the couple of Protofab cars go off out in there, but that's racing, you know. There's an old saying that George Fulmer told me when I was a rookie in this thing, and I might pass it on to a couple of younger guys. I've never won a race in the first corner, but I've certainly lost some, and so that's something to keep in mind.
Part of the weekend racing revelry, the Midwest Pro Sports 2000s. Easing into this type of racing, Gordon Johncock's son Wally, Duke Nailon III, Kevin Whitesides from Super V's, and from Formula Fords, Steve Ice and many times champ Dr. David Weitzenhoff. Current Super V man, Scott Atchison, was listed for a saloon car race at Brands Hatch, but he opted for Mid-Ohio. Wise call. Fast qualifier and the race, a piece of cake. Jim Truman's son Colin finished 5th, near the front, but another spin late forced him
the outside through the grass to miss it and spun, and on the way back across the track, I believe Weitzenhoff is running back of me, clipped me in the tail section, and that let 2 cars past me, so.
Mid-Ohio will reportedly undergo a $3 million repaving job late this year and will be lengthened 1/10 of a mile to 2.5 miles. Jacques Villeneuve crashed into a sandbank while testing there. The tub was broken in half, but Villeneuve wasn't injured. Bobby Rahal had a similar accident there, but his car was repairable. Wayne Rainey won the Superbike portion, and Mike Baldwin checkered the crash-filled Formula One Laguna Seca Camel Pro Meet Sunday. It was the only major race in the U.S. that had eluded Baldwin in his career. The story from Tim O'Leary.
The first of many crashes in this race occurred during the warm-up lap. Ed Wu goes down at the top of the corkscrew and his bike bursts into flames. Wu was not injured. When the first 100K heat did start, Mike Baldwin was on the pole, having qualified at more than 103 miles per hour. For the first 12 laps, it was a duel between Baldwin on bike number 1 and current Grand Prix points leader Eddie Lawson on bike number 4. Another accident forced a restart. And then on the 29th lap, Lawson crashed, dislocating his shoulder. Baldwin was caught and passed by teammate Randy Momola on bike number 8 during the final 4 laps to give Team Roberts a 1-2 finish in the first heat. The second heat started without Lawson and 7 other riders who had problems in the first heat. Baldwin needed a victory here to win the overall title. He opened up a 4-second lead over Momola, but Momola caught him on the 28th lap. The 2 identical Yamahas then raced wheel to wheel and side by side for the final 5 laps, with Baldwin edging Momola by half a bike length at the finish line. Momola finished second overall, and Cork Ballington on a Honda was third. From Monterey, California, Tim O'Leary reporting for Speedweek.
Now, Eddie Lawson, despite that injury, is expected to compete this weekend at Circuit Paul Ricard in France.
When we return, a trip around the country with several Winston Cuppers on a weekend off.
And a trip through history with NASCAR stars of the past. Stay with us.
If you like racing, you'll love Stock Car Racing Magazine. Every month, Stock Car Racing Magazine brings you racing's most colorful pictures and stories, insiders columns, technical features, personalities, the drama and the humor of America's fastest sport. Stock Car Racing with this special TV offer, a full year, only $15.95, almost 50% off the newsstand price. MasterCard or Visa, call 1-800-441-3636 to order, at almost 50% off. 1-800-441-3636.
I always thought it was crazy. People spend thousands of dollars on a car, and then when it comes to taking care of it, they try to save a few cents on no-name brands. It's a lot smarter to put in ones you've heard of, like Fram oil and air filters, Autolite spark plugs and wires, and Bendix brakes. After all, if you're going to put a lot of money into a car, spend a little taking care of it. It could save you from a lot of trouble down the road.
Arrangements made through Eastern Airlines, the official airline of Walt Disney World. This summer, experience the excitement of Epcot Center and discover why there's no face like home.
One of the biggest stock car races of the year nowadays at Nashville, Tennessee, since the Winston Cup Series doesn't compete there anymore, is the Coors 250 ASA race. Last Saturday night, several of the Winston Cup regulars were on hand for the show. That's Bobby Allison losing the lead to Butch Miller down the backstretch on lap 1. Darrell Waltrip crashed out on lap 10 when Dick Trickle hit the wall and rolled down the track in front of Darrell. There were only 3 leaders during the race besides Miller. Mark Martin in car number 2 was on top until lap 116. Mike Alexander in number 84 ran well until eliminated with overheating problems. Allison fell from contention just past the halfway point with engine failure. Mike Eddy defied a couple of old superstitions, a green car, and a 13th starting position to win his second in the last 3 ASA events.
NASCAR's influence stretches, of course, to the Northwest also. Here's Rick Meter with what happened last week.
28 cars took the green flag for the Winston Washington 500. Bill Elliott leading the way after smashing the track record in qualifying. Defending champ Derek Cope and local favorite Ron Eaton gave Elliott a run for his money early. Cope was in contention till midway through the race, but he blew an engine on lap 256. Eaton took himself out of it, spinning off the track 4 times. He came back to finish 4th. It looked like Elliott would end his string of short track defeats, but a broken axle with 15 laps left opened the door for Chad Little, the 23-year-old law student from Spokane. Driving the same George Jefferson Ford Thunderbird that carried Cope to the title last year, Little averaged over 82 miles an hour on the 5/8 oval. And when it was all over, he was a little overwhelmed. In Monroe, Washington, Rick Meter reporting for ESPN Speedweek.
At the opening of his new Honda dealership in Nashville, Darrell Waltrip told us his deal with Rick Hendrick and Waddell Wilson for next year was too good to pass up, and that retirement is still a few years away.
I know I don't want to run all the races for the rest of my life. I'd like to try to win a couple of more championships. So obviously I'll finish up this year, and then I may run 3 years. I may run 5 years. I don't know. But I'd like to then go into a situation where we field a car for a driver we want to run for the championship, and I can come in and run when I want to, big races or whatever, just whenever I feel like I want to, and sort of ease my way out of the sport and not just quit all at once. Withdrawal is tough in this business.
Sterling Marlin is another candidate mentioned as Darrell's replacement next year on the Johnson team. Rusty Wallace apparently will not be the replacement. He's re-upped with the Raymond Beetle organization. Tim Richmond and Jeff Bodine will be back with Hendrick. Harry Gant and Hal Needham apparently have a verbal agreement. Chuck Bowen held off the challenge of defending champion Dave Dion to win the Oxford 250 NASCAR Grand National race last Sunday. And Middletown, New Jersey's Orange County Speedway has claimed its second victim in 11 days. 18-year-old Johnny Owen was killed in warm-ups last weekend.
At one time or another, we all collect souvenirs, but very few of us carry it to the extreme that a Roanoke, Virginia race fan has. Here's the story from Mike Stevens.
Kerry Plunkett started collecting racing memorabilia back in 1968. Since then, that collection has grown and grown and grown some more, to the point that Plunkett and his wife Patsy have no more space in their rec room.
She told me to just go ahead and do what I wanted to do. So I started on one wall and it ended up like this.
The collection of items is as diverse as it is extensive. There are more than 155 different hats. Lines of clocks keep time in unison on one wall, and there's even a one-of-a-kind coffee table made out of one of Cale Yarborough's old rims. There are pictures of many of racing's pioneers, but mainly there are photos of Plunkett with the stars of the Winston Cup circuit, in particular Darrell Waltrip.
We pretty good friends, him and Junior and us. And we got married down at his place, down at Junior's place, and Darrell sent me the racing suit for a wedding present and everything. So I sort of like Darrell the best.
Plunkett is such a Waltrip fan, he even shares the Franklin, Tennessee native's love of basset hounds. Plunkett's house is currently for sale, and the plans for his new home include plenty of display space, enough for a major addition to the collection.
I'd like to have a Budweiser car, like from last year when he won a championship. I got the suit from a championship. I just need a car. You know, to be set. I'd sleep in it, probably.
In Roanoke, Virginia, I'm Mike Stevens for Speedweek.
Coming up, in open wheels, apparently Kenny still got it.
And Darrell proves to everybody he's obviously catching on.
Dodge races and Dodge wins, but winning ain't easy.
When the road is long and the going gets tough, less than your best is never enough. But the dream of winning lets you meet the test, because winners are dreamers who give it their best. And if winning was easy, why run the race? Can't be number one if you don't set the pace. At Dodge we know there's only one first place. If winning was easy, it wouldn't be a race.
36 wins, 3 manufacturers' championships, 3 drivers' championships, and 1 team title, all in 1 year. On the road or off, Dodge comes up winners.
And if winning was easy, why run the race? Can't be number one if you don't set the pace. At Dodge we know there's only one first place. If winning was easy, it wouldn't be a race.
Dodge Cars and Trucks, we set the pace.
When the big Q flows, America goes.
You there, Mr. Bailey, that's selling the car?
You buying?
Depends. How's it run?
Great. Always on Quaker State.
That's good.
Quaker State means performance. You can depend on quality.
I've heard that.
One-of-a-kind formula. Stable viscosity. Keeps flowing. Protecting.
You sold me.
The car?
And the oil.
Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Twisting roads, punishing trails, the open road. Each road demands a different tire to take it on. And with BF Goodrich TA radials, you've got all the different tires you need to take on those roads. The most complete line of high-performance radials in the world. The BF Goodrich TA line, built for you to take on the road.
The drag strip in Englishtown, New Jersey is one of America's most active and vigorously promoted. Last week in one of their major events, NHRA, and from prelims, just watch this.
Like a hesitant Saturn rocket, but then again, the vast majority of this half-ton, 20-foot-plus long racer in the rear, an example of just how delicate the touch has to be. Don Garlitz turned his misfortune around, but it wasn't what he had in mind. He had the best qualifying run at 272. Youngster Darrell Gwynn continued to emerge as a force when he defeated Dick LaHaye and his daughter crew chief in the finals.
When Kenny Bernstein gets on a roll, he just, well, rolls along in funny cars. Another force, John, was reminded here, but John did great. Pro stop. Warren, oh, it's him again. Johnson just barely chromed, rather fiberglassed out, Don Kuntz by 0.08 of a second. In qualifying, by the way, Garlitz had set an NHRA speed record of 271 miles per hour, which he backed up.
Well, the IndyCar race at Toronto this weekend, which, by the way, we'll televise live at 1:30 Eastern Time Sunday, John Morton will reportedly drive the Genesee Beer Wagon. Ian Ashley is expected to drive the second Dick Simon car. Ashley, by the way, is said to be the driver of a Himmelgarn-supported ARS car.
Speaking of the ARS series, just 12 cars are expected at Toronto. The True Sports team has folded, leaving points leader Steve Millen without a ride. Medellin's winner Fabrizio Barbaza was fined $2,500 and his points taken away by the SCCA for aggressive driving during that race. But his points were later reinstated and created a tie between himself and Millen.
It was like a page out of the auto racing scrapbook. Upright, front-engine, championship dirt cars on pavement. Gary Lee reports on the second annual Pepsi-Cola 150 from Indianapolis Raceway Park.
Gary Bettenhausen started from the pole with Winston Cup driver Kenny Schrader next to him. Gary took the lead on the opening lap and headed the field through lap 40 when his right rear tire began to go away. Early racing in the pack saw number 10 Steve Butler dueling with number 48 Gary Irvin and number 20 Bob Fry. Fry was driving the 295 cubic inch V6 Chevy that nobody would pay much attention to until later in the race. Butler would continue his drive from the 15th starting position, catching and taking third from Larry Rice. Indy 500 veteran Johnny Parsons would drop out with engine problems, and Irvin was sidelined with an oil leak. Schrader caught Bettenhausen and took the lead on lap 41. Gary would drop to 5th before pitting for new rubber and falling to 8th several laps down. Butler caught Schrader and, using slower traffic to block Kenny, grabbed the lead for 8 laps. Schrader regained the lead as the two diced and even touched just past the halfway point. At 100 laps, the little giant woke up. Bob Fry's V6 was a lap down, but became the fastest car on the track. He moved past Butler for second and set his sights on the leader. Fry passed Schrader and assumed the lead on lap 138 and set the pace for 2 laps until Schrader drove under Fry with a slide for life pass to regain the top spot. Fry fell off the pace with the V6 gasping for fuel. The car received a weight break because of the size of the engine, and the crew had calculated the amount of fuel needed to run the distance and had not completely filled the tank. Miscalculation may have cost Fry the race. Today, though, Kenny Schrader would be the Red Baron of the Silver Crown cars, shooting down all comers to win the race. We asked Kenny what the difference is between these cars and the Winston Cup cars.
This one turns over a lot easier when you hit something. I had that in mind all day, too.
Steve Butler would hang on for second. Third went to Ricky Hood, who passed number 4, Dave Blaney, on the last lap. Billy Englehart was 5th, with Silver Crown point leader Jack Hewitt 6th. For ESPN Speedweek, I'm Gary Lee.
Now here's this week's trivia question. This driver scored his first ever IndyCar victory in the first ever IndyCar race in Canada. Was it A, Bobby Unser, B, Al Unser, C, Gordon Johncock, D, Joe Leonard, or E, Mark Donohue? Larry will have the answer in a moment.
When you replace ordinary spark plugs with Bosch Platinum plugs, you may not notice the change immediately. The quicker starts, the smoother acceleration, the extra performance only pure platinum delivers. So how long will it take you to notice the improvement Bosch Platinum plugs make? About that long. Bosch Platinum, the ultimate spark plug.
When you take on the roads of Europe, you're taking on the world's toughest. And when you put on the Euro TA tire from BF Goodrich, you're putting on the tire built to take on those roads. Steering response, lightning quick. Speed rating, H. But you don't have to be over there to know how that tire handles right here in America. The BF Goodrich Euro TA, built for you to take on the road.
Explosive tractors, the battle of the monster trucks, and the summer's hottest drag race, the Northern Nationals, all Saturday night on ESPN.
The answer to this week's Royal Trivia question, the first ever IndyCar race held in Canada was on July 1st, 1967 at Mosport Park. And the winner was A. Bobby Unser, his first of 35 IndyCar wins during his career.
Former Super V racer Tom DeEath is now a hydroplane driver and led for a while in the URC race Sunday in Evansville, Indiana. Bill Weber reports.
In the six-boat final, Tom DeEath in the Merlin-powered Spirit of America charged into the lead. And with some crafty and at times daring driving, DeEath managed to hold off the faster and more powerful turbines. But at the beginning of the final lap on the 2-mile Ohio River course, Jim Kropfeld pulled the Miss Budweiser even. Then with the Spirit of America exhausted of its precious nitrous, the turbine took the lead, pulled away from her competitors, and danced to victory. Kropfeld averaged more than 122 miles per hour.
I didn't feel confident until the fourth lap when I finally aired it out. I never did open our turbine up. Dewey Norton, our engine builder, gave me a little more power, and I was a little leery about going much over 185, but I had to do it at the end there to get around Tommy. And when I put my foot down, it went.
The Spirit of America was second, followed by the 7-Eleven and Miller American. For Miss Budweiser, her second win of the season, and the 1,200 points tightens her grip on first place in the national standings. For Speedweek, Bill Weber in Evansville, Indiana.
This Sunday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll have live coverage of the Molson IndyCar race from Toronto. A report on that event and the Winston Cup race at Pocono next week here on Speedweek. I'm Larry Nuber.
And I'm Bob Jenkins. We leave you this week with more from Pikes Peak.
Speedweek has been brought to you by B.F. Goodrich TA Radials, built for you to take on the road. And by Dodge, a performance revolution, an American revolution.